Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to the video. This is fishing vlog number 188. And the event I was hoping for has finally arrived. I came down in the fish room a couple days ago and I found this little killifish fry. It looks probably a couple days old at this point. And I pulled up my camera right away, of course, and recorded it because you could end up getting lost in the foliage. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to find him again. And then, of course, as I'm doing the narration, there's another one that's in the upper right-hand corner there having a bit of a spaz attack. And yeah, I want to record it. And the other thing I need to do, of course, is to take the parents of this tank. Because one thing is that killifish do is they don't spawn like one big batch and that's it. They lay a few eggs every day, and as time progresses, hopefully in the next little while, more and more fry are going to show up, and I'm going to raise them in this tank. I put the adults in another aquarium where there's a bunch of plants, and they'll probably continue this process. I was a little concerned because most of them are getting a little old. Killifish don't live very long, a couple of years at most. And I want to make sure I keep the colony going, even though I basically have absolutely no use for them for the business. They are not good in community tanks, but they are a lovely fish, and I just happen to like them. So I'm recording this here now because the process I'm going to do for feeding these is a little bit different than I did when I raised the other batch. The other one, I colony raised them, and a few would come out. There's more than enough live food in my tanks to feed a few fry, and the ones that get eaten by the parents, well, I never really worried about it because there was going to be more than enough. But I want to raise a whole pile at once, so I decided to feed them and record how they're being fed. So what's in this aquarium right now is some baby brown shrimp. You saw him eating one just there a few seconds ago. And also the particles you see are finely ground flake food. And the other thing, Don, is I put in some of your golden pearls in here, but I think these guys are a little bit big for it, so I'm not sure if they're going to eat it, but I want to give them as many different varieties of food as possible so that they have a really good chance, really good nutrition, and I can raise as many as I can decide I want to have in the end. So yeah, I was very happy to hear about this. I mean, it is a fish, a type that I really care about, even though I have no use for them. So it's just nice to have this reassurance that I'm going to be able to keep them going. Speaking of fry, the Hat Borlei are doing very, very well. This is the first batch I decided to save, and as you can see, they're getting big and fat, and they're doing really well. 2 weeks ago, I pulled out another female who had a mouthful, and we're going to switch over to that tank in a few seconds. And I put her in with a bunch of plants, and she finally decided to spit them out, but she isn't at the point yet where she's comfortable enough just to leave them go. What she does is in the morning when I feed, so hold on a sec here, we're going to get the camera around the pipe and focus on there we go. You can see the fry there. She'll let them out in the morning to feed, and then the rest of the day she hangs on to them. She will in the next few days get more comfortable, and they'll be out more and more often, and hopefully, if I'm lucky enough, I might actually be able to get recordings of her letting the babies out and taking them back in. It's always kind of cool to see. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of Hat Borlei. The other thing is there's another female in the tank that is holding it as well. So if I want, I can have a third mouthful of these. Not an awful lot of them, but at least they're a fish that I have lots of use for. They're really lovely display fish. This is the second batch that I've saved recently of the OB zebras, and you can see they're fat and happy too. That was a large mouthful. I was quite impressed by how many fish can fit in one mouth, and yeah, that's got to be close. Well, probably isn't a record, but it does seem like it should be. And this is probably the smallest batch of Crebensis. I think there's about 4 or 5 of them. Mom's lost interest in them completely, which means she's most likely trying to get ready for another batch. Fortunately, this batch is small, so I'm not going to end up with too many of these. I have very little use for them. I just like them as a lovely fish, and they're just a beautiful pair, so I'm quite happy that they're doing well. I may eventually find some use for them, but we'll see. These are the OB zebras. This is the first batch. These guys are 8 to 10 weeks older than the other ones. As you can see, they get really big really fast. And one of the things I'm doing in the fish room in preparation for this is I am revamping my 7-foot tanks. They need a lot of space, so I'm trying to get that ready. And as you can see, they're all beginning to color up, get their OB patterns, and like I said, they're a lovely fish. But I want to get them out of here before they start breeding, and end up with too many of these things. Ever since I pulled out those few platyfry and put them in here, they're doing really well. And I'm going to raise these guys up separately. And I am going to, at this point, make sure that I set up a separate colony for those. Well, technically they're Tuxedo variatus, but they're not purebreds. You can call them platies if you like, because the ones that are being raised in here are definitely slightly different than the ones that are in the aquarium where they all came from. So we'll see how they all pan out, see if there's any real differences in raising them this way than the other, but we'll see if I can get some slightly different color varieties, which would be nice. This colony is thriving. I need to thin that out. It's way too crowded. So this is what they look like when they get a little older, those platyfry, variatus fry. They all end up, all the ones that grow up to this size look like this. So I'm curious if the ones I put in that other aquarium end up with this color pattern by the time they get bigger. And here's where all the Killifish are. Like I said, I counted up to about a half a dozen so far. I expect that number to grow, but we'll see how that all pans out. This tank's doing quite well. I did clean this filter recently. That's why it's a bit stirred up, but it's doing very well in there. I mean, very happy with it. And again, more guppies. I need to get those OB zebra fry out of that 2x2 aquarium so that I can start putting a lot of the guppy fry in that tank and raise them up in the bigger space. Unfortunately, I have to find room for them. Always an ongoing problem, I tell you. The other bit of good news is my war against duckweed, I think, is pretty much getting to the point where it's over. I do have one aquarium down on the far end of the fish room that has a little bit of it in there, but I rarely do anything with that aquarium, so it hasn't really reared in the sense of it being, cross-contaminating to another aquarium. I've been keeping an eye on the tops of these tanks, and so far haven't spotted any duckweed at all, which is great. And the other thing is I got a couple interesting comments about the hornwort that's in the filter specifically. It is different. It's not growing as well as the one right beside it with all the same water in it. So the comments I got suggested that it might be the bubbling, and I think that is a strong possibility. But what I'm going to need to do is try and figure a way of setting up a tank with a sufficient amount of bubbling throughout the whole aquarium to see if it is going to affect the growth of the hornwort. So we'll see how that works out, how I can manage that. I do have a fair amount of air in the aquarium, in the fish room, but we'll see if I can manage to get that, churning over enough to see if it affects it. So this is my temporary scud colony, and of course the one lone killifish, which I can't put with the other fry, unfortunately, because as you see, he's way too big. So he's going to get an aquarium at some point by himself. And I did read all the comments I got about culturing and subculturing, and I am working on that. As you can see in here, there is a bunch of cyclopses, and I am going to have that video up hopefully relatively soon. So in the last video, I cleaned this all out, got everything organized, because now I want to breed the white clouds, and that way I can actually really test how well those golden pearls do, and that's coming up soon, hopefully now as well. So there you go. Lots going on in the fish room. Thank you very much for watching. Leave comments, let me know what you think about all this, and I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.